Welcome back. If you just joined us, we've been looking at the proliferation of arms, small and light weapons in the country. And our guest on this episode of Question Time is the Chairman, Presidential Committee on Small and Light Weapons, Ambassador Imohe. He's also the Chairman, Conference of Parties to the Arms Treaty in the United Nations, Geneva. Don't go away. How relevant do you still see the mandate of this Presidential Committee on Small and Light Weapons due to the fact that the major unrest we see militants brandishing sophisticated weapons?
Actually, the scope of the committee's work right now goes beyond small arms and light weapons, because we also have responsibility regarding the Arms Trade Treaty. I will tell you that the Arms Trade Treaty is a global instrument negotiated under the auspices of the United Nations, because the United Nations and individuals and international community have been concerned about the poorly regulated trade in conventional arms. When we talk about conventional arms, we're actually talking about weapons of war. When weapons of war are many and varied. For example, you have battle tanks, you have armored combat vehicles, you have combat aircraft, attack helicopters, you have warships, you have heavy caliber, heavy duty artillery systems. And then of course you also have small arms and light weapons, in addition to missiles and missile launchers.
You are mounting an intense advocacy for an introduction of the new bill and also making us to understand that the 1959 Act and the 2004 Act are now obsolete for the modern trends of proliferation of small arms. So what difference should we expect from this new bill you are proposing?
We believe very strongly that the existing law in Nigeria is inadequate for dealing with the problems that we are facing, current problems that we are facing regarding offenses having to do with firearms. The laws are weak, especially from the point of view of the sanctions they contain. Now, I will tell you one thing, that if a man were to commit a serious infraction against the 1959 law, in all probability, he would, if we are lucky, he can go to prison for a year and a half, and he's out. And when he comes out, what does he do? He returns to his business, the business that he's familiar with. So we've taken a look at this and have felt all along that the law was not strong enough. Therefore, the focus of the new law that we are proposing is to ensure that we have stiffer penalties for offenses, firearms offenses in Nigeria. That is the main thrust of having a new law.
Nigeria is also a signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty. With the global spread of these arms, is it still possible to talk about control in all sincerity?
No matter the alternatives you want to try out, it is still essential to control the access that people are having to weapons. It cannot be free for all. Weapons are dangerous. And the danger really resides in the fact that once protagonists of conflicts have access to weapons, they want to use the weapons that they have. They're no longer interested in any other conflict resolution mechanism. They are naturally drawn to the weapons that they have in their possession, and they want to use it. So, and that is why we are very, very, very much concerned about the prevalence of weapons. And if you look at the conflict map of Africa, for example, from West Africa to East Africa to North Africa to the Maghreb to the Horn of Africa to Southern Africa, which part of Africa would you really say has been immune to the prevalence of conflict? And these conflicts are brought about because people have access to weapons. Those weapons Access to weapons, I believe, is the single most dominant factor responsible for the prevalence of conflict.
How far have we gone in the domestication of the Arms Trade Treaty in Nigeria?
Well, we have established structures for implementing the treaty. We have also crafted a new law. The new law that I made mention of is meant to implement and domesticate both the Arms Trade Treaty as well as the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons. The difference between the ATT and the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons is that small arms and light weapons are just a part, they form just a part of the remit of the Arms Trade Treaty.
Now let's look at the ECOWAS conventions now on the proliferation of small and light weapons. The convention appears not to have really brought in any meaningful solution. So are there any credible alternatives in tackling this menace?
Of course, we have alternatives. And in my assessment, the best option would be to combine these alternatives. The Arms Trade Treaty is an alternative. We have, for example, the UN Program of Action, although the UN Program of Action is also limited to small arms and light weapons, but it has to do with illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. And in addition to that, we have the UN Register on Conventional Arms. So all these are international instruments that can be used can be looked upon and can be utilized in a manner that will enable one to complement what the other is lacking.
Could you tell us more about your findings from the connection between money laundering and the arms trade?
Trafficking in arms, especially if you are talking about it within an illegal context, involves a lot of money. And because a lot of money is involved, because some degree of illegality is involved, it becomes very, very essential to ensure that and positive identification is done of those that are running the networks. And also to ensure that through the existing rules and regulations in Nigeria, that this illicit money that is fueling the prevalence of this problem is mopped up. You have to put in place necessary control standards that will enable government to mop up the money in order to deny access to this huge sum of money, to deny perpetrators of this illegality access to this huge amount of money that is available.
Is there enough intelligence to surmount this crisis?
It's the only way the problem can be contained. It has to be intelligence driven. And I think that when you talk about this, when I make reference to collaborative agenda, it's not just collaborative agenda amongst the military, but also at the level of intelligence agencies. This collaboration is also going on. And they are exchanging information, and they are working in concert to ensure, because it is a common problem really. You can't say it is an exclusive problem of Nigeria. No. In fact, if you don't contain it in one theater, it's going to migrate to another. So the earlier people came together, put heads together to understand that there should be a common front in the approach to this problem, the better it will be for everybody.
You may also join in this conversation by sending us your comment on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Coming up on Question Time, who are the merchants of war? Find out from the Chairman, Presidential Committee on Small and Light Weapons, Ambassador Emmanuel Imohe, after the break.